Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be walking through the Ultimate Task Tracker, a Excel spreadsheet template made by SpitFire Spreadsheets, which is me. We have three goals for this overview. One is to just give you a quick view of what it is. Next is to go through how it works. And the third is to show you how to set up yours. When you purchase this spreadsheet, you receive two Excel files. One is completely blank and the other has sample data in it. This demonstration, I will be using the sample data. Out that I have my Excel set in full screen mode, which means that the ribbon across the top is not showing. So yours is going to look different when you open it in your Excel. I have not deactivated that ribbon in the in the spreadsheet itself. It's just so that you can see as much of the screen as possible while we're doing the video. All right, so let's get to it. First, the quick walkthrough. Down this side here, I've set up a navigation panel. So you can just click each of these particular panels and it will take you to different places in the spreadsheet. Now this panel is exactly the same as the tabs along the bottom, just a little prettier. The sheets in this spreadsheet are set up in a similar format for consistency. So the top section is always a header that has filters available in it so that you can narrow down the focus of the information that you're looking at. And below it is the information that is collected from that filter. In this view, we have a dashboard, which is just a 1,500-foot view look at everything that is in your spreadsheet at the particular moment. And like I said, you can filter this information. So you can go to filter and choose, say, this week instead of looking at 30 days, and all of the information will update accordingly to show you what needs to be done this week. It does take a second for all of these graphs to regenerate. I think it is also going a little slower because I'm screen recording, but section is task data. This is where we actually enter in tasks that we have to do and update them when they're complete or canceled or move to a different status. Next is the to-do section. All of these are to-dos. It's a task manager, but I'll call this one to-do because it is just a simple, straightforward list of everything that needs to be done. I have limited it to only show 20 items, and then it tells you how many more are beyond that. This too is filterable. And this data here is dynamic based on filters. Next is a Kanban board. So Kanban boards show how tasks progress from not started all the way through to completion. I've also included canceled. It too is filterable. You can also add more than one filter. You're not just limited to choosing one. Next, we have the Eisenhower Matrix, which is a system where you organize tasks based on urgency and importance in a 4x4 matrix. It too has filters. And then we have the calendar view. The calendar view automatically updates to the current month and day, but you can change it by using any of these selectors up here. And it shows all of the activities for each individual day. I shouldn't say all, it shows 5 activities sorted by priority for each of the days. And if it's green, then it is done. And if the green is getting in your way, you can just simply filter it out. Then we have an overdue view, and this is just all tasks that are overdue. Again, it's filterable, and these charts are dynamic. And lastly, we have the setup, which couldn't be simpler. We can add 12 task categories and 12 people responsible, and we can update this at any time. And last on the list is the guide, which is a text version of everything that is in this video. All right, part two. So in part two, we're going to focus at first on the setup section and the task data section. And we'll start with setup. As previously stated, this section is in fact very easy to fill out. You just need to define up to 12 categories. You must have at least one category though, and you need to define up to 12 people who are going to be responsible for those tasks. And again, you must have at least one person. Now, this information drives so much of the spreadsheet, so it's really important that we don't do anything fancy here. We simply just want to type in these sections. So for example, because this is in the realms of project management, I might want to have a category called deliverables. I just simply type it in, press enter, and move to the next cell. What I want to avoid doing is, one, copying and pasting. So I don't want to Control C and Control V this information anywhere because it'll force all the cells in the back end to readjust where that information lives and will break the spreadsheet. Another thing we don't want to do is drag something. So if you get it with a, see, I just did it. I'm just going to cancel out of that. If you get the crosshairs here, you can drag cells places, and that is just bad news. It'll recalculate everything in the back end and break stuff. If you accidentally do it, and it's thinking really hard because it's breaking things at this moment, you can just undo it and you should be safe. And the last thing you want to avoid doing is dragging cells. I'm not sure why you would want to, but you don't want to drag out a bunch of information in these cells. So simply just click in the cell, type what you want, click in the next cell, type what you want. If you don't want it, delete it. Now, I know you may be looking at this section saying this doesn't feel like you or your situation. This example is for project management and will completely make sense to project management people. But you can change these categories and people responsible to whatever makes sense for you. So if you're a mom or a family or somebody who wants to organize their life, you can put things in here that are life-based, things like self-care, house cleaning, pay bills, but just appointments in general, kids' activities, those kinds of things can go in the categories list, and the people responsible can be your family members, but it can also be people that would do things for you, like a handyman or your house cleaner or your father-in-law. Anybody that you want to allocate tasks to so that you don't forget them, you want to get them out of your brain and into a spreadsheet, put them as a person responsible. Now, one additional thing before we move to task data, I do want to show you how when you add something here, how it changes some of the views. So I'm going to add a new section, new category called events here. And it does take a moment because it is doing a lot of recalculating. And I'm also going to add one that is parties. I don't know. And there we go. So we've got these three new category types here. I just wanted to show you when you go to the dashboard that information will automatically show up in your category views so that you can see how data is allocated to it. Of course, there's no tasks associated with those, but now it'll start counting those. All right, on to task data. So the task data sheet is where you're going to be entering in all your tasks and updating all of your tasks as you complete them. To make using this sheet easier, I have activated a few things that are inherent to Excel. One of them is freeze panes. So what freeze panes does is it locks the header in place so that you can scroll to the bottom of the sheet and still see all the headers in place. What it also does is allow you to get to the bottom of the sheet and just stay there. And when you leave, say you go back to the dashboard and you come back to task data, you don't have to scroll back to the bottom every single time. It's there and ready for you. You will notice, however, that with the freeze panes in place, that it does actually get rid of the dashboard items here. They're still there. They're just way up at the top. So the way I get around this is I just go to the dashboard every time and then I have access to all of them. The second thing that I've activated is the filtering of the header information. So if you're not familiar with filters, I'll give you a quick tutorial and I'll do it by showing you things that I use the filters for in my task manager for my personal use. So one thing that bothers me is I hate seeing all of these complete. I only want to have all of the tasks that have not been completed in my view. So this little gray button here is the filter button. And when I click it, it presents to me all of the different statuses that are available in this column H. And I can turn them on and off. So I don't want to see canceled anymore and I don't want to see complete anymore. So I click OK, takes a moment to refresh. And now those are gone out of my view and I don't have to worry about them anymore. If I wanted them back, I just click this little button again and I say select all and press OK. And they're back. The other thing I find myself frequently using this for is to search for specific tasks, mostly when I can't remember if I've added them or not. So the way you do that is if you click on the filter button, you can type anything in this area here for this section. So I can't remember whether I put the budget tasks in and I press OK. And now the data is filtered for just the budget tasks. I can see that, yeah, I put in all the ones that I was supposed to. And when I'm done and I don't want to see that anymore, I just go back and click select all and say OK. Now filters do stay on when you leave. So if I put this back to not wanting to see canceled and complete, and then I leave and I come back, that filter is still there. And sometimes that could be a little confusing. So if something's not where you expect it to be, look across this bar and see if you have any filters on. Also, the row identification here will change color when there's a filter on. So normally they're like black and right now they're blue. So that's an indicator that there's a filter on. If I was to remove it, they would all turn back to black again. Having filters on also does not prevent me from adding more information for it. So I've got that status filter on. I can go ahead and add new tasks here if I want to. Adding tasks is as simple as filling out all of the white information. The gray sections are locked so that you can't access them because they are formulas, but you just fill all of this out. I will speed this up not to bore you. Okay, so I've just added a new task, but I want to show you a few tricks on how to add tasks more efficiently. So what I find that I'm doing a lot in my personal spreadsheet for task management is that I make swaths of tasks at a time. So I might be doing a task like video for spreadsheet, and I want to do one every single week. So you can take that task and you can drag it out. Dragging in here is not a problem. And you can take all of the information that you put associated with that and apply it to everything in one fell swoop. As you can see, all of the due dates are the same, and that's not what I want. So if you have a little bit of Excel savvy, you can use formulas here too. So let's say I want to do one every single week. So I can say starting on 20th here, which was when my first one was, plus 7 days, and drag that down. Let the formulas update, and there you go. I have tasks that are all the same, entered into the spreadsheet in very short order, and I know all of these dates are spread out evenly as I want them. Another thing I find myself doing when creating tasks that is useful is I create a swath of tasks and then I want to alternate who I assign them to. This is especially good for chores and activities that you want to assign your kids. So if you want to have them clean the toilets and have one kid do it one week and one kid do it the next week, you can absolutely copy and paste in here. So I have these all assigned to Alex at the moment. Let's pretend Alex is my kid, Jordan is my kid. I can select those two cells, press Control C to copy them, and paste their names down without any problems whatsoever. So pasting in here is not going to be an issue. And now I've assigned this task alternating weeks to these particular people. So it's just some quick tricks on how you can get your data into your system faster. Let's go back to the dashboard so that we can see all of the other items here. And the dashboard we'll cover last, but all of these, the dashboard, the to-do, Kanban, Eisenhower, calendar, and overdue, they're really just views of all the same information, just mixed in different ways. So if I go to the to-do tab, we've already shown you in the quick preview video that you can go ahead and filter and that these are dynamic. I will just walk you through these visuals here so that they make more sense to you. So there's a legend over here that tells you what the color coding means. This wheel gives you a progress for all of the tasks that fit Alex. He only has one overdue, and you can see that that one overdue is the pink one here, is right here. This table is a rolling 30-day task count. So what you want is, here's your today in the middle. He happens to have no tasks available today, but all the tasks on this side that are complete are green. Anything that's overdue is pink. In the future, tasks that are complete, so maybe you got ahead of schedule, those are green, but the immediate future, next 7 days, are light gray, and the further future is dark gray. So what you want to see here is just gray. That's what you're aiming for, and a big fat 0. Like I showed in the preview, you can add as many filters as you want, and it'll just keep narrowing down the focus tighter and tighter. So if I only wanted to work on tasks that I deem that are urgent, now only the urgent tasks would show up. To save space, I made urgent star and important a star. So if it's not important, it's just a dash. And if it's not urgent, it would also just be a dash. Now this is all of Alex's urgent tasks for all time, like everything that's in the database. So he's got this list here. It goes all the way out till August, and there's 8 more that aren't shown here. If I filter it even one step further, so let's just say this month, it's going to narrow the focus even further. And you can see he just has a few tasks. But you'll notice that the 30-day rolling average is for the whole system. So it doesn't get narrower based on date. It's a standard 30 days. Now some tips for how to use this spreadsheet for different uses. So if you have a staff member that prefers a paper list over a computer list, you can print this out. It is formatted to print so that just this information shows and nothing else. It fits on one 8.5 by 11 page, and you can print one in hand for each individual person. You just filter for each individual person, print them their own sheet, and hand it to them via day. What I like to do for my personal spreadsheet that I manage all of my family activities with is I print out my kids' to-do list and I put them all in the fridge. KanBan Board is just another view of all of the information again, except it's organized in by status. So each column shows a different status and the number of tasks that are associated with it. Underneath each of the sections is the first 7 tasks that are in that list as to-dos, and if they are red, then they are overdue. There are 148 additional tasks that are not shown. Now this number, 155, might seem like really overwhelming, but remember this is for the whole database. So what you'd like to do is to change the date range. So if you want to know what's going on this month, just give it a second to update all these charts. And again, it does take time because it is regenerating all of this information. You can see that there's 27 tasks that aren't started. That's not terrible. And we've completed 78. So that's like a really good number. One other thing to point out here is that the order in which the tasks are presented, for the ones that are not started, they are the ones that were due the earliest first. So it goes from the smallest date to the largest date. But for the complete and the canceled, it's the other way around. And that's because otherwise you would just see the first 7 tasks that you ever completed and it would never change. Next, we have the Eisenhower Matrix, and if you're not familiar with an Eisenhower Matrix, I will do my best to explain it as quickly as I can, but there are explanations under each of these. I've slightly deviated from the system that is, if you were to Google it, what you would see these labels be, but this makes more sense to me. What an Eisenhower Matrix does is it splits tasks into a 4x4 matrix where urgent and important are the things that you were supposed to focus on immediately. Those are the things that if you don't do them, then the world's going to fall apart. And then your tasks that are urgent and not urgent and important are the next ones that you should address because they're important to you and they move the needle in your life. Tasks that fall into the do fast category are urgent but not that important. Think things like phone calls. It's urgent because the phone is ringing, but is it important? Probably not. And my favorite category of all, because you should probably be canceling a lot of these, is the do later category. They're not urgent and they're not important. And you know what? If you never did them, nobody would ever notice. So these are things like organizing your sock drawer, organizing your spice drawer. I mean, they look good on a list, but do they move the needle in your life? No. I find that this is a really good view for just putting things into perspective. Now, one specific thing I will point out about this board is that this progress wheel looks great. It shows the statuses of everything, and it's nice to see this green come around, but it's not very helpful to know what tasks are next because it's completely filled with your complete activities because they were done earliest. So you may find it helpful, or you probably will find it helpful, to turn the complete off. So you can say show complete, no, it'll readjust everything. So now the items that are listed underneath of it are the things that are actually on your to-do list. Next is the calendar view. And to be honest, this is my favorite view, not because of how it's designed, but just how simple and informative it can be for your daily life. As mentioned previously, it is formatted so that it automatically opens to the current month and year, but you can change that no problem in the taskbar up here. It is also organized so that it'll show Monday automatically, but if you prefer Sunday start, you can switch that to Sunday start. Also, as you can see, I am doing really good here in this example with all of this green that is showing me that I have completed all these tasks, but it is kind of getting in the way of knowing what I need to do next. So I can filter it to not show completed tasks. And that helps me see what I actually need to do. Now, each day is limited to 5 tasks. If there's 20 tasks that need to be done on Wednesday, July 2nd, it'll only show 5, but it does organize them by priority. So the highest priority ones will be at the top. And if you do keep the complete off, as you complete tasks, the ones that are remaining will roll their way up to the top. So here's an example down here. There might be a 6th or a 7th from here. As I prepare the status report, these will move up and 2 more records will come underneath. Now, the calendar view is a view that you want to keep in mind when you're setting up your categories. If you set up your categories in a way that items that are scheduled that would look best in a calendar view are their own category, then you can filter for those views and see everything at a glance. As an example, in my personal task tracker, my kids have a ton of activities going on. So there's soccer, there's hockey, it's reoccurring, they happen like every other week, and it's a lot to keep organized. So what I like to do is I have a category in my spreadsheet called kids activities. And that is where I put everything that they need to be out and doing and I need to get them to so that I can filter for a view that just says kids activities and see what's coming up and when it is. And lastly, we have the overdue section. So this is when things start falling behind and you really want to nip stuff in the bud. You've got a view here that allows you to see what is it exactly that is falling behind and who's responsible for it and what category is it in. It operates exactly the same as all the other charts with the filters. Now, in case it wasn't obvious, I do want to point out that all of these views, the filters are independent. So if I filter for Alex and this month in this view, it does not affect the Kanban view, which is organized for this month, and it does not affect the Eisenhower view, and so on. So what you'll find as you start using this is you will have these boards set up in ways that are useful to you, and you will just leave them alone. You might go in here and flip back and forth between your kids, but you're always going to have it set at this month and you're always going to have it set at urgent, for an example. Now that we've been through all the boards, we can go back to the dashboard and it should make a lot more sense. So this dashboard is really just a 1500 feet view of what's going on with all of your tasks. So we've got a summary that's in counts in case you like numbers. So this is your total tasks, number complete, number incomplete, a short-term forecast, and a long-term forecast. This is all the tasks by status, the ones that are overdue, by category, by responsible, Eisenhower summary, and the priority summary. So if you just want a snapshot of what's going on in your world, this is the place to come. And again, it's filterable. I'm just going to quickly take a moment to put this system back to its factory settings. In your case, you would open up the blank template, but really all I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all of my tasks, or sorry, all of my categories, delete all my people responsible, and then delete all my tasks. So this is what your system will look like in its factory settings. Your setup will have nothing, your task data will also have nothing, and your dashboard will look like this, which is why we use sample data to go through the walkthrough because this is not very interesting. I'll just quickly flash through the other ones so you can see what they all look like. When there's no data, there is not a lot to see. So first we're going to go to the setup, and let's set this one up as though it is a family. I'm going to pause and take a minute to just fill this in really quickly, and you don't have to watch me type everything in, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the setup that I have. This is a family. This is Suzanne's mom, Martin's the dad, Caitlin, Jacob, and Sarah are the kids. They've got the grandparents involved, and we've got the handyman and the accountant. And these are the categories, so you can see how this fits into people's lives as well. So house maintenance, I might assign some of that stuff to my husband, but I also might assign it to the handyman. I can also assign some of it to the kids if it's mowing the lawn, that kind of thing. House cleaning, we can start delegating across all of these people. Kids activities, that was for the calendar so that we can make sure that we can see all the kids activities and where they need to be and whom with all in one particular view. Same with the medical appointments, but you can also add finances. And maybe that gets assigned to one in particular person. Maybe you spread that all out. Schoolwork. Maybe it's for the kids' schoolwork that needs to be done to document when they're having tests and when assignments are due. Or maybe it's because Martin's going back to school and has work that he needs to keep, sorry, school work that he needs to keep organized and needs to know when he's going to be available and not available. So as you can see, a little setup goes a long way. And now when I go to task data, I can just start entering tasks. And it's very simple. And this is where the swath system really comes into play. So I can think of things like take garbage to the curb. That is a house cleaning activity. It's my husband's job. We're going to start that on January 1st, 2025. It is always not started. It's a medium priority. It is urgent because if you don't do it, it's going to be a problem. And it is important because I don't want my house smelling like garbage. And then I can just swath this out for as long as I want, simply by grabbing that and dragging it out. And garbage comes every 2 weeks, so I'm going to run it out for 26 times. And instead of it being on January 1st, it's actually on the 5th. When I look at the calendars, or the garbage calendar, and it's every 2 weeks. And I go ahead and drag that down. And there we go. I've got 26 tasks made in under a minute, and I go to the dashboard and boom, things start populating. So it's as simple as that. And so now that you've got some tasks in your task data, when you've completed tasks, you would go into this spreadsheet and you would start marking them off as complete as you go. And the information updates accordingly. If you complete a bunch of tasks all at once, you can go ahead and drag them and they will populate as being full. So that's another thing when filters become handy is you can filter out the sections so that you can drag the complete from one section to another. And then your dashboard will update accordingly. Those were for this year. So you can see that sections start turning green. And that's everything you need to know about setting up your ultimate task tracker. Now, there is one other thing that I did want to try and squeeze in here, and we'll see if we can do it. I just had to change some views so that we can get to the right information. So I'm going to change it so that I can see the ribbon. So this is what your Excel spreadsheet's probably going to look like. And we're going to talk about adding a date picker because it is really unfortunate that you have to type in these dates and then Excel doesn't automatically come with a drop down that's associated with it. So I have not done research as to all the different ways that you can do this. This is only the way I know how to do it. So if you don't find what we're looking for in following my directions, I encourage you to Google it because there's probably something that I'm missing in this explanation. So to start the date picker, you go to Home, and at the end here, there's a section called Add-ins. When you click Add-ins, there is a list of popular add-ins, and the date picker is usually in here. But if it's not, then you would just put in the words mini calendar, and it'll come up. Once you've identified the mini calendar add-in, you click it, and it appears in your spreadsheet. Now, it stays wherever it was placed. So as you're working through the spreadsheet, you do have to move it around, but it does allow you to grab dates or to pick a cell and populate it with a date. If it is full already, it will ask you if you want to overwrite it. You can say, okay. When you're done using the date picker, it doesn't go away. That's fine. You could leave it on there whenever, however you want. But if you do want it to go away, it's not obvious. You can't just press delete, or you can press delete and it goes away. That's awesome. But if you want it back, you press add-ins, you click your mini calendar, and here it comes again. But if you want to use the buttons to do it, there is a little button that's not shown, but it's in this top right corner, and you click it and you say delete, and it will delete the date picker. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I'm sure you didn't make it all the way to the end, but regardless, thank you. And if you are interested in the task tracker, there is a link below to where you can purchase it. Thank you so much. Happy tracking!